Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabe Morency. Let's do this thing as the UFC takes Manhattan in the world's most famous arena after years of anticipation. The UFC holds its first ever card in New York City, Madison Square Garden. Ticket prices are off the hook. Excitement level is off the hook. New York is always the place to be, the city that never sleeps, but especially this week as Donald Trump, the President-elect of the United States of America, residing in Trump Tower just a couple of blocks away from Madison Square Garden. And I know John Pollock is right in the middle of all of it down there right now in New York City. The place to be right now is New York City, and a place to be right now for you if you want to make some money betting on UFC 205 is right freaking here on MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I'm fired up, man. It's often stated that, oh, this is the best card, this card's deep and all that. This card's freaking awesome. We're not going to be able to get to every fight on the card, so let's just cut the small talk right now and let some smart people talk as opposed to me, who's not very smart. Lou from Gamblu.com will join us in a couple of moments, but it's our pleasure to welcome back to the program. It's been a couple of months or maybe even like 6 months or so. Used to be a regular contributor. Of course, you know him from the book Fightnomics, the preeminent analytic MMA book that there is out there. Mr. Reed Kuhn joins us. Reed, always a pleasure, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, and it takes a card like this to coax me out of retirement for coming on the show, but this one I was happy to do because I'm pretty excited for this weekend.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Yeah, I know you're a busy man, and you've got a lot of projects going on, Reed, but, you know, this is like the Super Bowl of Super Bowls, isn't it? That's why I had to fire off the email to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, I had multiple clients competing on the card. Unfortunately, one of them, Tim Kennedy, will probably not be competing, but it looks like he's going to get that run back probably in the next month on a later pay-per-view. So a little bit less personal nervousness as I watch the card this weekend, but still very interested as a fan.
So when you say personal clients, and who else on the card then is a client of yours, and is it that you provide them your analytic analysis of their opponents? Is that a service that you provide to fighters?
Yeah, I've been working with a number of fighters for a while. I do scouting reports, some strategy development, trying to identify where the relative strengths and weaknesses are for each guy and how best to exploit those imbalances. So Tim has been a long-time client. I've worked with him since the Strikeforce days, so that's public. My other client is not public. I don't think I'm going to let him decide whether or not he wants to reveal that. So he'll just have to go nameless.
But it's interesting, isn't it, Reed? Because I remember sort of years ago, and I spoke to so many fighters, especially the old school type of guys, in which, you know, I talk about strategy, their opponent, and they're like, I don't know, I don't watch, I don't care, it's a fight. You know, it used to be the old guys, it's a fight, or the old, I impose my will, I'm not worried about what he's going to try to do. And a lot of guys really live like that. And I remember even talking to Forrest Griffin once about judging and stuff. And I asked him, I said, have you ever looked at the judges before your fight and said to yourself, this guy, you know, this guy likes takedowns, this guy doesn't. And he was blown away by the question. He's like, I never thought of that before. And that's a great, he was like, you're blowing my mind right now when I told him that. And it really is the little things. Like when we look at football and winners like Belichick, Reed, they're looking for every little freaking angle possible, aren't they?
Yeah, champions do that. So there's a difference between the regular athlete and the champion mindset, and the highest level guys, especially the coaches themselves who have oversight to a lot of different fighters. They're the ones that are using this stuff the most. So it's a trend in the right direction because as the sport evolves, it's being more and more competitive. Every guy is looking for that edge, and this is one of those edges.
All right, so let's talk about a guy who is pretty much on the cutting edge, actually, of modern mixed martial arts. A different style of training, a different approach in the octagon, even with his strange angles and very aggressive approach with Conor McGregor. So let's break down Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor a little bit. And, you know, what stands out the most to you about Conor McGregor? Is it his accuracy and the punches that he throws usually land?
Yeah, his accuracy is ridiculous. So you'll see, if you check my Twitter feed, there's a lot of different angles to take on this, but his accuracy is arguably the best on the card when it comes to landing that most important strike, which is a power strike to the head. He lands them at 42% accuracy. Keep in mind that's almost double the UFC average. So far and away, he has pinpoint accuracy, but he's doing that also to a large extent with his feet. Another striker on the card that is similar in that respect is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Another excellent striker. He's doing it with his hands and his feet. He's doing it with very high accuracy, and he's doing it while moving forward and pushing the pace. So Conor McGregor is offensively something. He is a force to be reckoned with, and I'm not sure if people have really figured him out yet. On the other hand, getting close and jamming him up is something that Eddie Alvarez is probably better equipped to do than some of his other opponents. He's a smaller guy for his weight class. He's used to facing rangy people, and he got inside on Rafael dos Anjos in a major upset, but one that we saw coming in the numbers. So this is a very interesting fight. Understandably, the betting lines have not diverged too much. Conor always has a lot of action behind him, but it's not out of whack. And I do think that this is a close fight. It could go either way here.
Yeah, you know what? And I think the odds makers reflect that opinion, Reed, and the fact that Conor McGregor is such a public fighter. And, there's so many people that just sort of blindly are going to bet on him. The line hasn't skyrocketed. I figured, Conor would be at 220, 230, and, when it opened, it was at 135. Now it's up to about 160 right now. Wouldn't shock me if it hits, minus 175 or so. But you're right about Conor. He's still evolving. He is a smart fighter. I wonder about where his mindset is at with these Rolls Royces and the videos about him, buying bling and always talking about his money and stuff, as opposed to just getting the work done in the gym. And then Eddie Alvarez, on the other hand, Reed, there's a lot of data for Eddie to look at, but, we've seen since he's been in the UFC, he adjusts according to the opponent. Against Anthony Pettis, he didn't get into a stand-up war because he knew, look, if I take this guy down, I'll win easily. And he did that, and he apologized about it after the fact. But at the same point in time, anybody that's seen Eddie Alvarez take on Michael Chandler in those two fights knows that this guy, also loves a bloody brawl as well. So I really don't know what Eddie's actual approach is going to be in this fight.
Yeah, on paper, he certainly attempts a lot of takedowns, about twice the average rate for a UFC fighter. And he's not landing them with a lot of success, which is common for people who shoot from a distance. And being a smaller fighter, that does seem to be his MO. But he does have good takedown defense. He hasn't really been controlled much on the ground. So overall, I would expect to see him use wrestling probably pretty early. Try to suck in Conor McGregor range-wise, and then look to close that gap and make it a dirtier fight up close.
I think Conor's day is coming. I wonder where his mind is at, but I'm not sure Eddie Alvarez is the guy to do it. But to me, and I look at this fight, I almost feel like it's a pick-em fight, Reed. And as a betting man, when you got a pick-em fight, and the odds are skewed. And like I said, I think McGregor, the money's going to continue to come in on McGregor before Saturday night. I'm leading Eddie Alvarez right now, and I've kind of wavered on this, and I always lose when I waver, but I've been all over the place on this one. I can't lie, Reed. I've been all over the place on this one.
Yeah, I personally would not lay much juice on Conor. I see this as barely a pick'em fight myself. So if forced to play money, I would go underdog.
What about the gas tank stuff? Eddie's always said that's going to be my difference. This guy's like a 7-minute fighter, man. He can't go into the championship rounds.
Yep, that could also be a factor, especially if they mix it up early and grind this out, because wrestling does tend to tire people out, especially the strong guys.
All right, so let's talk about Wonderboy Thompson and Tyron Woodley. Woodley's, severely disrespected and disliked. It's amazing how quickly he was put into this villain role for one reason or another. Everybody loves Wonderboy and his spectacular kicks, but the line in this fight surprises me. It's amazing to me, actually, that Conor McGregor is only a minus 160 favorite, yet everyone's just like lock, stock, and barrel. It's almost like it was like for Hillary Clinton, just give her the presidency. Let's just give Thompson the belt right now because, he's just going to kick Woodley in the head and Woodley sucks. I'm amazed by the line and that it's minus 200, Reed. I really am.
I am, too. You don't normally see an incumbent situation like this where the incumbent champion is a major underdog. it's a little bit different when you have two different champions fighting each other in the first fight. But here, yeah, you have Tyron Woodley went in as an underdog, knocked out Robbie Lawler in the first round. That put a big exclamation point on this title path. He's been very patient and waiting for it. I think maybe that might be some of the booze that he gets, is that he was biding his time, waiting for this title shot, and didn't take other fights in the meantime. But when he did, he got it, and he delivered it, and it's hard to argue with that. But stylistically, this is two very different guys here. You know, Woodley can knock anyone out with that big right hand. He has the hardest hitting punch in the entire division on paper. Thompson has been dangerous with his striking, but it's the head kicks that really do it, and it's his precision and his ability to throw a lot of volume and move around the cage and simply outwork people. And he did that against Rory McDonald beautifully. And anybody who gets through Johnny Hendricks and Rory McDonald deserves a title shot.
Yeah, you know,
so I do think this is absolutely fitting.
Oh, it's an awesome fight. It's an awesome fight. Like, I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. You know, I look at this, it's like a gun and a knife fight, man. It really is. Like, Woodley's got the knife. Come on, man. You know, come near me. And Thompson's got the gun, in which, hey, I ain't getting too close to you. I got a little bit of a length advantage here, and I'm going to try to shock you with one of these kicks to the head that you don't see coming. Fascinating matchup, Reed. Yeah,
and it will be very interesting to see if Woodley pulls the trigger early on takedowns. I mean, remember, he is a decorated collegiate wrestler.
Yeah.
That is not Thompson's strength, and Thompson did get owned on the mat by Matt Brown, so that could change how this fight plays out.
Incidentally, that's the last fight that Wonderboy lost against Matt Brown. Only loss, actually. All right, we got to get out of here already, Reed. Time always flies when we have you on, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man. You know, you've taken a step back from the weekly hits and stuff, but it doesn't mean that his book is still not available for you guys out there. If you don't have it, pick it up. It's still relevant right now after a couple of years. A wealth of information out there in analytics and data. Thanks for the time, Reed.
Yep, thank you. Just follow me on Twitter at Fightnomics. We'll be posting all sorts of facts for this weekend's fights.
Reed Kuhn, Fightnomics, and Fightnomics on Twitter, man. It's the Super Bowl, the Super Bowls of all Super Bowls of Super Bowls, this UFC 205. Gamblu joins me next.